Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank
Yes,
you,
sir.
Prabhu. Prabhu, I'm going to just quickly log out and log in. I'm having some trouble with my screen sharing.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare.
Hare Krishna, devotees. Welcome to the morning Bhagavatam session. I'm having some trouble with my camera. I think I had this in the last reading session also. I thought it was a one-time thing, but somehow the camera on my computer, when I try to operate it, it's not showing anything. So I'll have to work with my IT guys and fix it probably next week. So please forgive me for not having the camera turned on. I will just go ahead with Jai Radha Madhava, and then we can start. Jai Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunja Vihari, Jaya Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunja Bihari, Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha, Jaya Girivaradari, Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha, Jaya Girivaradari, Yashodhanandana Brajajana Ranjana, Yashodhanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Kunja Vihari Jaya Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Yashodhanandana Jaya Brajajana Ranjana Jaya Yashodhanandana Jaya Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Kunja Vihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Krishna Balaram Jaya Krishna Balaram Nitai Gaura Nataraj Nitai Gaura Nataraj Jaya Jagannatha Baladeva Jaya Subhadra Jaya Radha Shyama Sundar Radha Shyama Sundar Shri Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Shri Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Shri Radhe Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Guru Deva Jaya Guru Deva Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Thank you all again for joining this Saturday morning Bhagavatam session. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Thank you for this opportunity for doing this Bhagavatam class this morning. I seek all your blessings and the blessings of our Vaishnava Acharyas. Whatever I am going to say is all from Srila Prabhupada and his devotees in his disciplic succession giving some knowledge. I try to absorb that and give it back here. If I say something wrong, that is my complete misunderstanding. Please show compassion and correct me so that I don't make the mistakes again and again. Let me share my screen here. Prabhu, is my screen visible, Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhu.
So, thank you. For devotees who are joined late, I'm unable to share my camera view because of some problem in my laptop. So please forgive me for that. Today we'll be discussing Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 5, verse number 35. So continuing the chapter of Narada's conversation with Narada Muni. So we'll start with the verse. Yadatra kriyate karma bhagavat paritoshanam jnanam yattad adhinam hi bhakti yoga samanvitam. Yadatra kriyate karma bhagavat paritoshanam jnanam yattad adhinam hi bhakti yoga samanvitam. Yadatra kriyate karma bhagavat paritoshanam jnanam yattad adhinam hi bhakti yoga samanvitam. Any of the devotees would like to recite the verse?
Yes, Prabhu. Yadatra kriyate karma bhagavat paritoshanam jnanam yattad adhinam hi bhakti yoga samanvitam.
यद् अत्र क्रियते कर्म भगवत् परितोषणं ज्ञानं यत्तद् अभिन्नं हि भक्तियोगसमन्वितम्.
Thank you, Prabhu. Any Matajis?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
यदत्र क्रियते कर्म भगवत् परितोषणं ज्ञानं यतद् अधीनं हि भक्ति योग समन्वितम्.
Thank you, Mataji. So the word by word meaning. Yat, whatever, atra, in this life or world, kriyate, does perform, karma, work, bhagavat, unto the personality of Godhead, paritoshanam, satisfaction of, jnanam, knowledge, yattat, what is so called, adhinam, dependent, he, certainly, bhakti yoga, devotional, samanvitam, dovetailed with bhakti yoga. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Whatever work is done here in this life for the satisfaction of the mission of the Lord is called Bhakti Yoga, or transcendental loving service to the Lord. And what is called knowledge becomes a concomitant factor. I'll read one more time. Whatever work is done here in this life for the satisfaction of the mission of the Lord is called Bhakti Yoga, or transcendental loving service to the Lord. And what is called knowledge becomes a concomitant factor. Purport: the general and popular notion is that by discharging fruitive work in terms of the direction of the scriptures, one becomes perfectly able to acquire transcendental knowledge for spiritual realization. Bhakti Yoga is considered by some to be another form of karma, but factually, Bhakti Yoga is above both karma and jnana. Bhakti Yoga is independent of jnana or karma. On the other hand, jnana and karma are dependent on Bhakti Yoga. This Kriya Yoga or Karma Yoga, as recommended by Sri Narada to Vyasa, is specifically recommended because the principle is to satisfy the Lord. The Lord does not want his sons, living beings, to suffer the threefold miseries of life. He desires that all of them come to him and live with him. But going back to Godhead means that one must purify himself from material infections. When work is performed, therefore, to satisfy the Lord, the performer becomes gradually purified from the material affection. This purification means attainment of spiritual knowledge. Therefore, knowledge is dependent on karma or work done on behalf of the Lord. Other knowledge, being devoid of bhakti yoga or satisfaction of the Lord, cannot lead one back to the kingdom of God, which means that it cannot even offer salvation, as already explained in connection with the stanza, Naishkarmyam apyachyuta bhava varjitam. The conclusion is that a devotee engaged in the unalloyed service of the Lord, specifically in hearing and chanting of his transcendental glories, becomes simultaneously spiritually enlightened by the divine grace, as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita. Translation one more time. Whatever work is done here in this life for the satisfaction of the mission of the Lord is called Bhakti Yoga, or transcendental loving service to the Lord. And what is called knowledge becomes a concomitant factor. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Ghora Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So the context of this verse is Narada Muni arrived at the scene where Vyasadeva was feeling despondent, After having written the Vedas and the Mahabharata, he still felt something, unsatisfactory in his heart. So Narada Muni arrived at that time, and he enlightened him in so many verses that because he has not um, dedicated a literature just for the glorification of the Supreme Lord and this process of devotional service, that is the cause of his despondency. And he is encouraging him to deliver Srimad Bhagavatam for the welfare of the humanity. So he completes that in the early part of the chapter. So last week Ramacharya Prabhu gave a beautiful summary to give a nice overall picture. So he gave the Shabda Praman. He gave so many verses, providing the importance of having a literature which is Amalam Puranam, right? And then he does what he does in the later part of the this chapter is he gives Pratyaksha Praman, which is the case study or an example of how this has happened, how that those teachings which will come in that literature can affect, can influence one's life. So he is giving his own personal example from his previous birth on when he was born as a son of a maid servant. The situation was that his mother was involved in serving the Bhakti Vedantas during the during the rainy season when they take shelter in one place. And he, along with his mother, served these Bhakti Vedantas and received the mercy in the form of remnants of their prasadam and hearing to the Krishna Katha from them. And when they were leaving, they gave him their mercy. They were very compassionate by nature. They gave him the most confidential knowledge as they were leaving, and by which he was able to handle, future difficulties that he'll come to face. So he is giving the case study. So we are in that portion where the Bhakti Vedantas have given the confidential knowledge, and they also give additional knowledge from verse number 32 to 36, 32 to 35. Today's verse is 35, right? So they're all kind of together, the same theme, a section of those verses. They're all talking about Karma Yoga. The verse number 32 and 35 was very similar. Rajeshwari Pran Mataji has done this verse 32 a few weeks back. It has if you read the translation also, it has a very similar meaning. O Brahmana Vyasadeva, it is decided by the learned that the best remedial measure for removing all troubles and miseries is to dedicate one's activities to the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this verse is tailored in a way that by dedicating one's activities to the service of Supreme Lord, one can get rid of the miseries in one's life. O good soul, does not a thing applied therapeutically cure a disease which was caused by that very same thing? Bhupal Prabhu did this verse, which essentially gave an example of how when one eats too much of milk sweets, they can have bowel disorders. To treat such a bowel disorder, the same milk is taken, but in a different form as a curd and with some other ingredients mixed with it, can become the cure for that same disorder the disorder caused by the milk itself. So like that, the activities that one performs, which leads to bondage, in a normal in a living entity's life, when there is no devotional service involved, a man's activities just cause perpetual bondage. When it is dedicated to the service of the Lord, that can become the solution. So thus, when all a man's activities are dedicated to the service of the Lord, those very activities which caused his perpetual bondage become the destroyer of the tree of work. That's the verse that Ramacharya Prabhu did last week. So the verse 35, whatever work is done here in this life for the satisfaction of the mission of the Lord is called Bhakti Yoga, or transcendental loving service to the Lord. And what is called knowledge becomes a concomitant factor. So that is our today's verse. We'll go a little bit further into that. In this verse it says, not just for the satisfaction of the Lord. Prabhupada translates it as for the satisfaction of the mission of the Lord. So we'll touch base on that in a little bit. But in general, we talk about satisfaction of the Lord. So what is the mission of the Lord? No, Prabhupada gives some sense in the purport. So in the first part of the purport, Prabhupada says, general and popular notion is that by discharging fruitive work in terms of the direction of the scriptures, one becomes perfectly able to acquire transcendental knowledge for spiritual realization. Bhakti Yoga is considered by some to be another form of karma, but factually, Bhakti Yoga is above karma and jnana. Bhakti Yoga is independent of jnana or karma. On the other hand, jnana and karma are dependent on Bhakti Yoga. So we have heard in this lecture series in the chapter 5 itself that Bhakti Yoga is causeless. Right? Bhakti does not need jnana or karma. Bhakti is causeless. Before we jump into that, Narada Muni was given by the Bhakti Vedantists the most confidential knowledge. In verse number 31, it says he received the most confidential knowledge that is not available to everyone. So after that was given, why was Narada Muni told about Karma Yoga? Does anybody want to answer the question?
The screen is not visible, Prabhu. Probably it's for me or.
Your screen is not visible, Prabhu?
Oh, now I'm able to see, Prabhu.
Okay. Any thoughts on this?
So, Prabhu, Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yeah.
So my understanding here, Prabhu, like even in the battlefield, right? When Lord Krishna was telling Arjuna about the confidential knowledge, when Arjuna asked that, then why should I fight this battle? Even after having all this confidential knowledge, I can just surrender unto you and then continue my path on bhakti. Then he tells that no, you should take up the bow and fight. So he tells to do the karma yoga, like, so that way I'm able to draw a parallel.
Okay, thank you, Prabhu. Yeah, definitely in that same understanding, correct. So the bhakti is not just renouncing and doing nothing. And that may be very high stages of bhakti, definitely possible. But for most of us, bhakti is the word bhakti is the definition is devotional service. It involves activities in that devotional service for the pleasure of the Lord. So bhakti is devotional service, and even in Bhagavad Gita, when in 12th chapter, Krishna says, just fix your mind upon me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and engage all your intelligence in me. Thus you will live in me always without a doubt. And then he says, if you can do that, if you cannot fix your mind upon me, then follow the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga. In this way, you will develop a desire to attain me. But if someone feels that, oh, they cannot do even that, cannot practice the regulations of Bhakti Yoga, then just try to work for me. Because by working for me, you will come to the perfect stage. So there are people in different levels. So Krishna is giving different levels where they can start and attain that perfection. The final goal is the same, the love of Godhead, but where you start and what what you can do based on that, you are given that the step in the ladder. So Narada Muni, of course, he is a very exalted, as a small boy at that time when he received the message, the Bhaktivedantists were giving him the Karma Yoga knowledge also, along with the confidential knowledge, so that he can get to that perfection. At least that's my understanding of when I was questioning as I was preparing. Why was he was given the confidential knowledge? Why should he be talked about Karma Yoga? But that is more directly applicable, right? For people, for a person in this material world, that is more directly applicable. So bhakti is independent. What is considered, bhakti is considered the topmost in the chapter 6 conclusion verse, right? Of all the yogas, bhakti yoga is the topmost. Bhakti is the topmost. It cannot depend on something lower, which is the jnana and karma. In fact, when karma has to become karma yoga, it has to be coated with devotional service. Similarly, jnana, just acquiring knowledge, has to become jnana yoga. Yoga is connection with the supreme, right? Yoga is the divine, connection with the divine. So when jnana has to become jnana yoga, then it has to be with the devotional service. So for karma and jnana, they need bhakti in order to attain that final goal. Whereas bhakti does not need all that. Bhakti involves all that as a it has it inherently in the form of devotional service, but it is not needed. It is causeless. Not because of karma and jnana one gets bhakti. So the famous verse that comes to mind is the Anya Vilashita Sunyam Jnana Karmadi Anavritam Anukulyena Krishnanu Shilanam Bhakti Uttama. So when first class devotional service develops, one must be devoid of all material desires, knowledge obtained by monistic philosophy and fruitive action. The devotee must constantly serve Krishna favorably as Krishna desires. This is the definition of bhakti given by Rupa Goswami in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So, jnana karmadi anavritam. It is devoid of fruitive tendencies or speculative knowledge. So it's and no desires. Anya abhilashita. No other desires. The only desire is to constantly serve Krishna favorably. Anukulyena Krishna Anushilanam. But bhakti, then it also involves everything. It includes everything. Bhakti is not bereft of anything. We know the famous verse from second chapter of first canto. Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojitaha Janayati Asu Vairagyam Jnanam Chayat Ahaitukam. By rendering devotional service unto the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, one immediately acquires causeless knowledge and detachment from the world. In fact, this is saying that just by performing bhakti yoga, one attains causeless knowledge and detachment. The bhakti cult is the topmost of transcendental activities, and therefore it is simultaneously sublime and easy. It is sublime for the pure devotees who are serious about getting in contact with the Supreme Lord, and it's also easy for the neophytes who are just on the threshold of the house of bhakti. And bhakti is open for all living entities. There is no lower and higher. The other high-grade activities designated as sacrifice, charity, austerity, etc. are all corollary factors following the pure and scientific bhakti cult. In conclusion, one who is a pure devotee has all other good qualities, namely knowledge, detachment, etc. But one who has only knowledge or detachment is not necessarily well acquainted with the principles of bhakti cult. So one leads to the other, not the other way around. In the part 2 of the purport, Prabhupada talks about the Karma Yoga part. This Kriya Yoga or Karma Yoga, as recommended by Sri Narada to Vyasa, is specifically recommended because the principle is to satisfy the Lord. The Lord does not want his sons, the living beings, to suffer the threefold miseries of life. He desires that all of them come to him and live with him. But going back to Godhead means that one must purify himself from material infections. When work is performed, therefore, to satisfy the Lord, the performer becomes gradually purified from the material affection. So in translation, we saw that satisfying the mission of the Lord, right? So I feel that these words here, highlighted in a different color here, the Lord does not want his sons, the living beings, to suffer the threefold miseries of life. He desires that all of them come to him and live with him. I feel this is the mission of the Lord. So when we serve this mission of the Lord, when we try to satisfy this mission of the Lord, that is Bhakti Yoga. So in this part, it is saying that one has to go back to Godhead, but in order to approach fire, one must become similar to fire, right? Otherwise, whatever that object or person will be just burned to ashes. So one has to become that nature. So Lord is so pure, in order to come in proximity with him or attain him, one must purify oneself. So all our sadhana, the performance of sadhana and all that is to purify ourselves, right? Anartha nivriti, and elevate ourselves. So when iron rod is put in fire, it gets the tendencies of that fire. It can act like fire. When you go touch that iron rod which has been placed in fire for a long time, it has the same tendency. You touch some other object, that object will catch fire. So in the same way, we have to purify ourselves by this performance of karma yoga in the mode of satisfying the Lord. When one does that, purification happens, and you can attain the point where you can receive the Lord's mercy and come face to face with him. The tendency of karma yoga is fruitive activity is sense gratification. One does things for material benefits. So Lord Rishabhdev's teachings, I'll come to that in a minute, but the tendency of fruitive activity is when the mind is polluted by fruitive activity, the living entity wants to be elevated from one material position to another. Generally, everyone is involved in working hard day and night to improve his economic condition. Even when one understands the Vedic rituals, he becomes interested in promotion to heavenly planets, not knowing that one's real interest lies in returning home back to Godhead. So Brahmande Brahmite Kone Bhagyavan Jiva Guru Krishna Prasade Paye Bhakti Lata Bij. So by acting on this platform of fruitive activity, one wanders throughout the universe in different species and forms, many births. Unless he comes in contact with the devotee of the Lord, a guru, he does not become attached to the service of Lord Vasudeva. So knowledge of Vasudeva requires many births to understand. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, Vasudeva Sarvamiti Sa Mahatma Sudurlabha. After struggling for existence for many births, one may take shelter at the lotus feet of Vasudeva, Krishna. So Lord Rishabdev says in the early part of his teachings to his sons, people are mad after sense gratification. And they do not know that this present body, which is full of miseries, is a result of one's fruitive activities in the past. So when one goes and looks at oneself in the mirror, we are technically looking at our past karma that has given rise to this body. Although this body is temporary, it is always giving one trouble in many ways. Therefore, to act for sense gratification is not good. One is considered to be a failure in life as long as he makes no inquiry about the nature of work for fruitive results. For as long as one is engrossed in the consciousness of sense gratification, one has to transmigrate from one body to another. Although the mind may be engrossed in fruitive activities and influenced by ignorance, one must develop a love for devotional service to Vasudeva. Only then can one have the opportunity to get out of the bondage of material existence. So whatever fruitive activities one is involved, the propensities that should be dedicated to for the satisfaction of the mission of the Lord. One can say, why not just don't do any activities? Like Arjuna said, right? Arjuna said, gave so many convincing reasons to Krishna. I don't want to fight. I just want to renounce everything and go to the forest. Is karma really needed? Why not just renounce? Right? So a living soul cannot be inactive. In various places, Prabhupada has said this. The activity is the nature of the soul. It's an inherent nature of the soul. Cannot be inactive. So a living entity either has to, in this material life, you either serve your senses or the Maya, or you have to serve the Supreme Lord. You make choices, whether you continue in the path of serving Maya or take a stand, take shelter of the Lord, surrender and serve the Lord. And also, the real understanding is the service is eternal. This nature of the soul is eternal, right? The soul is eternal. That nature of the soul is also eternal. So you are serving here in the conditioned state, and once you are liberated, you are in the abode of the Lord, you will be serving there also. So that's the, in Mayavad philosophy, that the service aspect is what is missing, right? The form of the Lord, they don't consider Lord has a form, but the service aspect is also missing because of that. When the Lord doesn't have a form, there is nothing to serve. So they don't think of serving after liberation. So they are just stuck in the Brahma Jyoti. There is nothing to do, no service there. So the service is not just in conditioned state when you are trying to satisfy the mission of the Lord, but once you're in the liberated state, that service continues. I like this Shubhasitam I heard in one of the lecture. Udyamena hi siddhyanti karyani na mano rathai nahi suptasya simhasya pravishanti muge murgha. Of course, it is not talking about the karma yoga to satisfy the mission of the Lord, but in general, one has to perform activities. That's what this is saying. The meaning of that is we can accomplish various tasks only by making continuous and strenuous efforts, and not just by merely wishing to do so. We are not Supreme Lord. He can make it happen just by the thought, a thought or a desire. Everything can happen by his energy. For us, we have to strenuously make effort. Activity is part of our life, day-to-day life. A living entity, especially a person, grihastha, he has so many things he has to do to maintain the family, job, other activities, and so on and so forth. By no means, antelopes themselves do not just enter into the mouth of a sleeping lion. The lion cannot say, I am the king here, king of jungle, I'll just keep my mouth open and then the deer will come into my mouth. No, lion also has to go hunt the deer. It has to do its activity in accordance with its position. So one cannot be inactive. That is the point of that. So there are various paths to destination. We all know about the yoga ladder. Krishna has dealt with it very wonderfully in Bhagavad Gita. Karma yoga, Jnana yoga, Ashtanga yoga, Bhakti yoga. So all that leads one to the final purpose is the linking oneself with the Supreme. So this path is necessary. One cannot just not do activities. This verse is very similar to the verse that we are doing today, where we read Bhagavat Paritoshanam, right? Bhagavat Paritoshanam is activity for the satisfaction of the Supreme. Bhagavat Paritoshanam, satisfaction of the mission of the Lord. In this verse it is Samsiddhir Haritoshanam. Atapumbir Dvijashreshta Varnashrama Vibhagashaha Swanishtitasya Dharmasya Samsiddhir Haritoshanam. O best among the twice born, it is therefore concluded that the highest perfection, Samsiddhir, highest perfection one can achieve by discharging the duties prescribed for one's own occupation according to caste divisions and orders of life is to please the personality of Godhead. So the highest perfection is by whatever one's occupational activities is to please the personality of Godhead. In the purport of this verse, Prabhupada gives very beautiful points. I picked up a few of them. Human society all over the world is divided into the 4 varnas and 4 ashramas. So that is given by the Lord himself. Chatur varnam maya shrishtam guna karma vibhagasha. In chapter 3, Lord says, I created these 4 orders and the varnas and ashramas. These are classified in terms of one's work and qualification and not just by birth. In the purport, Prabhupada says, in the best interest of human society, there must be such divisions of life. Otherwise, no social institution can grow in a healthy state. This is a very important point. For the very smooth functioning of the society, we need to have all those divisions. We need Kshatriyas who are able rulers to guide and protect the living and the public in the society. We need Brahmanas who are educated and who can guide all the class of men and who know what is the real goal of life and help them achieve that with that knowledge. And we need Vaishyas. Now we have to eat, right? Somebody has to take care of cows and produce milk and agriculture. All that is needed for the living entity's survival. And the same way the Shudras are needed. Somebody has to do all the menial labor also. In Prabhupada, in the lecture on this verse, he said, if everyone decides, I want to just chant Hare Krishna and sing the glories of the Lord, and I want to build a temple, who is going to build the temple? So we need everybody. We need all aspects in this division of life. We need people in all aspects in the division of life. But everybody does their work for the satisfaction of the Lord. So without that, being part of all these 4 varnas and 4 ashramas, all the aspects cannot be addressed nicely, and a healthy society cannot exist. The highest aim of life or the highest perfection of the institution of Varnashrama Dharma is to cooperate jointly for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord. So that is the purpose, true purpose of Varnashrama Dharma, not just segregate one as, pariah or one as the exalted personality and mistreat others. That is not the aim. The highest aim of this is to work together for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord. Yadatra kriyate karma bhagavat paritoshanam. Now there are so many references one can give. These are the couple of ones I thought is important. So in chapter 3, verse number 9 in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Yajnatat karmano nyatra lokoyam karma bandhana tadartam karma kaunteya mukta sangha samachara. Work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu has to be performed. Otherwise, work causes bondage in this material world. It is very well known, right? We do karma without the satisfaction of Vishnu part, then that put us into bondage. Whether it's good karma, bad karma, both has its bondage. Therefore, O son of Kunti, perform your prescribed duties for his satisfaction, and in that way you will remain free from bondage. You will attain the state of a karma. In chapter 9, this is also a very famous verse. Yat karoshi yad ashnoshi yad juhoshi dadasi yat tapasyasi kaunteya tat kurushva mad arpanam. Whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer or give away, and whatever austerities you perform, do that, O son of Kunti, as an offering to me. So in this way, Krishna in various places has directed a living entity to perform the activity for his satisfaction. In that same section of Karma Yoga, as I was reading, it kind of resonated with me. We talk a lot about Nishkama Karma Yoga, but Nishkama Karma Yoga is a very elevated platform, at least for a person like me. So I thought I'll put this, share this information, or at least what I thought was very relevant for us. The word sakama means with desires. In other words, one still has material desires. So sakama karma yoga means one is doing the karma yoga, but with still some desires. One still has material desires and is attached to enjoy the fruits of his work, but he agrees to offer part of these fruits to Krishna in the form of charity, donations, or even direct service. By offering the fruits of his work to Krishna and assisting his devotees, he progresses in spiritual life and becomes purified. So this is the path recommended for most, since this is the level most of us can realistically follow. Especially, in a grihastha ashrama, I feel. In terms of practical application, this means to stay in a family life, get some good education, work in some honest job, and pursue some material goals to a certain extent, but at the same time cultivate spiritual life, donating part of his money and time to assist other devotees in their job of expanding Krishna consciousness. This creates a platform where one can remain peaceful and thus have the presence of mind to continue his practice of devotional service. Of course, this is not good by itself, but this is in the position where we are. We start with that and then gradually go to the Nishkama Karma Yoga. The second level is Nishkama Karma Yoga, without desires. At this level, one is already purified enough and not attached to the fruits of his work. Although externally engaged in activities, internally he is renounced. At this level, one can just work for Krishna, living a simple life and assisting in the propagation of Krishna consciousness. This is the level of devotees who serve full time to be by living in a temple or community, or by using all their time and resources to spread Krishna consciousness and living by what comes naturally. Such devotees usually have very simple lives, but have the opportunity of advancing very fast. This is, however, a very difficult platform to maintain. Immature followers can harm themselves by trying to prematurely situate themselves in such a platform. It is quite an advanced level. So when I read this, we always talk about Nishkama Karma Yoga, but what I am at least able to do on a daily basis is more Sakama Karma Yoga. There is a lot of tendency still, that I'm trying to rise above. But that devotion, the desire to serve the Lord is there. So that is the starting point, and then we go to the Nishkama Karma Yoga, and that leading to the Bhakti Yoga. The part 3 of a purport says, therefore, knowledge is dependent on karma or work done on behalf of the Lord. Other knowledge, being devoid of Bhakti Yoga or satisfaction of the Lord, cannot lead one back to the kingdom of God, which means that it cannot even offer salvation, as already explained in connection with the stanza, Naishkarmyam apyachyuta bhava varjitam. So we did this verse number 12 in the same chapter. It says that even self-realization free from material affinity does not look well if devoid of a conception of the infallible. Naishkarmyam apyachyuta bhava varjitam. Varjitam means devoid of. Even one talks about self-realization, devoid of material desires, as long as the conception of Lord is not there, achyuta bhava is not there, it has no significance. What then is the use of fruitive activities, which are naturally painful from the very beginning and transient by nature, if they are not utilized for devotional service of the Lord? So one can ask, how do you know that I am satisfying the Lord? Now, Prabhupada says that you can know through your spiritual master. You don't have direct connection to the Lord. Of course, Paramatma can guide us to some degree, but we are not pure enough in that state. I am not at least pure enough in order to understand messages directly from Paramatma. There is some guidance definitely in my actions and my thoughts, but not all of it is pure. But one can know through one's spiritual master. If your spiritual master is satisfied, then you should know that Krishna is satisfied. Yasya prasadat bhagavat prasada. There is no difficulty. Yasya prasadan nagati kutopi. You cannot satisfy Krishna by dissatisfying your spiritual master. That is not possible. You must satisfy. And the parampara process is very important. We receive the knowledge in the parampara system, right? From the Brahma, Narada, and then again Krishna gives to Arjuna. It comes down in that disciplic succession. We receive the knowledge in the parampara system. Same way, when you try to satisfy the Supreme Lord, that also is done through this parampara process. You satisfy your spiritual master, and that way you are satisfying the disciplic succession and in the end the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Prabhupada concludes in the purport by saying, the conclusion is that a devotee engaged in the unalloyed service of the Lord, specifically in hearing and chanting of his transcendental glories, becomes simultaneously spiritually enlightened by the divine grace, as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita. So we know that in the Chaturshloki verse, Krishna says, when one understands that I am the source of everything, then they are constantly, matchita matgata prana bodhayanta parasparam, constantly dedicating, they're talking about me. When they are constantly involved in devotional service, then Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayantite. To those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. So this divine grace, right? By the divine grace becomes, one is enlightened by the divine grace, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. So for us, we receive the divine grace of the Lord through his divine grace, Srila Prabhupada. So without him, this Bhagavatam, I cannot even imagine reading Bhagavatam, let alone understanding it without his efforts. Such effort he put in order to just give us this beautiful transcendental literature, which is the light in this age of darkness. So by his divine grace, we receive the divine grace of Krishna through these words of Srimad Bhagavatam. So that's all I had. I think I thought I'd finish quicker, but I went 2 minutes over the time also. So I'll stop here. It's the points from this verse are very similar. In the last 4 weeks, we perform activities in the mode of satisfying the Supreme Lord, in this mode of satisfying the mission of the Supreme Lord. And that leads us to Bhakti Yoga. So I'll stop here. Thank you all for your attention. Please forgive me if I have said anything incorrectly because of my improper understanding, and I would be very much appreciate if you correct me so that it doesn't happen again. Any other sharing or any other comments you have, that also will be very nice to hear. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Thank you for the wonderful class, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu.
So one thing which I had from the Chatushloki, right, the last sloka that you highlighted, right? So
Yeah.
the text is that those who serve me with love, I make sure that they understand me, right? That is the thing.
Yeah.
So just my question, Prabhu, so why did you develop love for Lord Krishna? Like, what is your reason for developing love for Lord Krishna? I just wanted to hear from you.
What is the reason for developing
Love
love
for
for Lord Krishna?
Yeah.
Okay. So my understanding would be first of all, you have to understand your position, who you are, right? First of all, you understand who you are. You are not this body. You are the soul. And the other aspect of that is, okay, so you are this eternal soul. But what is this, but who is the one who created all this? Who is the one who's the father of this? So you understand the position of Paramatma also. You understand position of the Supreme Lord, Krishna, as the seed-giving father. You know, when the understanding is right, you know that you are the soul and you are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. But once that understanding is clear, that's called the Sambandha Gyan. When that understanding is clear, then the natural tendency is, your relationship is one of father and son. The natural tendency is the father is pouring love for the son, and son is pouring his love to father also. But at the same time, the son is in a position of serving the Lord. That the relationship is one of servant and master. We have read it in many, many of the verses. The relationship is, there is no other bargain here. I think our acharyas clearly say there is no bargain. I don't want Prahlad Maharaj, right? He says, I don't want this bargaining thing. No, I don't want to do something and get some benedictions from you. That is not the deal. The deal is I am the servant and you are the master. I just want to serve you. And that service is best when you serve with love. When you have love for someone, you naturally serve. Right? Even in material life, you love your wife, you naturally serve. You love your parents, you naturally serve. So that love is the natural element that makes this service more joyful for you and for the receiver. That's what I feel. That the love means is that one knows clearly their position and the position of the Supreme Lord, and now there is nothing else stopping it. It has to be this way only. At least that's the understanding I am having. There may be other ways to answer your question.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you. This is wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Dandavat Pranam.
Dandavat Pranam, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you for reading. And so I have a question, Prabhu. In this material world, okay. So if you love with Krishna, so people are thinking we are ignoring others. In that case, how can we survive with the spiritual and material, how to balance those two? Because even people are in Krishna consciousness, they're showing some variations. So still I didn't understand the philosophy. So where we are serving Krishna and where we are showing our love to Krishna in the situation.
I'm not completely understanding the question, Prabhu.
Just like we need to serve Krishna. Am I right, Prabhu? Like we need to love Krishna. So if you love Krishna, at the same time, we need to love, we need to serve other people as well.
Yeah.
That's how our love, In that case, sometimes we may forget or ignore. Instead we are loving so much. We are doing a lot of devotion service with Krishna, but ignoring other people who are around.
I see. Yeah.
So
like you are saying, it is, because of doing this, you're not doing that.
Something like
conflict.
Both are conflict, and sometimes it mismatch, and it leads to a different understanding. When we see the people. So
yeah.
Avoid that kind of situations. Where we can go in the spiritual path.
I had a question like this some time back. Am I really serving Krishna if I start serving my family members, right? For example, simplest one, right?
Yeah.
So the understanding I got after discussing with devotees is you are in a particular position. You are put in a particular position by Krishna, right? Because of course, your past karma and all that plays a role where you are, but you have been given a particular position. In that particular position, you have some certain duties. As a father, you have to take care of your daughter and son. You have to take care of your wife. You have to maintain your family. You have to take care of your parents, so on and so forth. Siblings or whatever. So all those activities are also considered spiritual. You have been given that role by Krishna. You have been put in that position by Krishna. So the duties that come with that role, when you do it correctly, when you do it in a pleasing manner, that also is pleasing to the Lord. If you look at the 12th chapter, this one step after another it goes, right? Where if you cannot do this, you do that.
Yeah.
If you cannot, Krishna keeps doing your activity in your ashrama, in your position, in a pleasing way to the Lord. When there is no sense gratification involved in that, as long as you're serving without that mood for enjoyment, you can serve your daughter or son with the understanding that they are you are just an instrument serving your daughter or son as a father, but they are all truly children of God. In that sense, when you do that service, you're doing the service to Krishna. Same way, many examples you can say. So in that position, as long as you perform that service without attachment, many words can be thrown here. Without attachment, they say. Once you're attached, then you are expecting something in return. When you do it without attachment, being detached, easily said than done. But that is the if you see many devotees, many elevated devotees are doing that, even in the grihastha life.
Yes, true.
So for us, at a lower stage, we have to take those examples and practice. I struggle every day, Prabhu. It's a learning process, but we have the understanding, so we just keep applying, make corrections, and keep applying. And one other thing that's coming to me in my mind is, Prahlad Maharaj case, right?
Yes.
How he served his father, right?
Yeah.
There was no, of course, he's greatest of the greatest.
You cannot
His
compare.
father was tormenting him, yet he only showed affection to him. He never showed any hatred to him. And in the end, by perfecting his life, he served his entire generation of family, 20 generations, right?
Yeah.
So everybody got liberated. So that's another way to look at it. When you are really in that path of pure devotion, you might not do these day-to-day activities of serving your family members, but you are going to attain that path where the Lord is going to take care of your your 20 generations.
Thank you.
Those
Prabhu.
are the two ways I can think of, Prabhu.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, because the only thing, when you said attachment. So if you do start serving, so sometimes we'll be attaching, in the activities.
Correct.
In that case, we will be losing our bhakti process. Our motto is to attach Krishna, not thing, because it's a part of our life, the family and all. It's part of our life, but we should not. If you are not showing attachment, like an attachment way, people will think, okay, this person is little different, kind of.
Yeah. Attachment does not mean being detached. Does not mean you don't show love, right, Prabhu? I mean, you
That's
still.
what that's our inner feeling. But
Yeah.
we show that what is that? For normal people, they will not understand which is attachment, which is detachment.
Yeah, correct.
You keep on, you go and spoon feeding, then that's the attachment. If you're not doing that, that's a detachment. Just an example.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. I know there is time up, but I have one question. Can I ask, Prabhu?
Yes, Mataji.
Sorry, Prabhu.
Yes, Mataji.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhuji, for excellent session. So I have a question is like this sloka, is saying, whatever it is saying, like karma and all doesn't impact your bhakti process. Am I understanding right, Prabhuji? Because in that translation, it is saying in that way. So I have question related to karma affecting the bhakti process.
Okay.
So
It
yeah.
says, in the purport, Prabhupada says that, okay, go ahead.
Okay, so this is more question related to this karma
Mhm.
affecting the bhakti process, right? Normally, in our born itself, karma is affecting, and where we will attach to Krishna or where we come to bhakti process also, it will take time. That's definitely depends on our karma, we'll say, right? That is one. And another thing, of course, once we come into, suppose, say, some people do the bhakti, start bhakti, or come into that come into that place to bhakti or Krishna consciousness at the time of age of 5 or 1 or 20, 40, definitely this factor is impacting. I mean, this factor is directly relating the karma, or that is one. Second is, once we come to the bhakti process also, um, uh, of course we have free will. Sometimes this karma is over imposing, affecting the bhakti. Maybe we may think that that over imposing may improve us, like Parikshit Maharaj doing something on having the snake and all, and later he took the 7 days bhakti and he liberated. So just can you comment on those things, Prabhuji?
I didn't quite understand the second part, but the first part.
Second part is like sometimes our karma is imposing on us to do. I mean, we wanted to do something, but because of the physical things or because of which those impacts may be making us not doing the actuals whatever we need to do. I'm thinking some karma is impacting us. So yeah, that's our more towards maybe my confusion maybe. So can you please comment on them, Prabhuji?
On the first one, I'm not sure I'll be answering it to your satisfaction, but I'll try. On the first one, karma is not deciding when you start bhakti, is my understanding. Bhakti is above everything, causeless. So when we say, even in the verse today, in one of the slide I read, right? Brahmande Brahmite Kone Bhagyavan Jiva Guru Krishna Prasade Paye Bhakti Lata Bija. So we are just wandering from life after life, doing our karma. At some point, we come in contact with the Guru or a disciple of a Guru. And that's when we are given that seed of bhakti. Until you come in contact with that devotee, either in the form of a guru or a siksha guru or diksha guru, whoever it is, until that point, that bhakti is not, that seed is not sown. Why some people get it at 5, why some people get it at 40? There is there are we do understand that karma, whatever you do, is transient. When this body ends, of course you carry the effects of the karma into the next body, but what body you receive. But the spiritual activity, anything you did, that is never lost. Now, swalpam apiyasya dharmasya trayate mahatobhat. So you carry that Krishna puts in the eternal account, and you carry it to your next life. You come into, why are some born in a very poverty stricken family, and why are some born in a rich family, or in a family where your father and mother are already practicing? So that's where that comes, right? Where you left off, you pick up there. You are given an opportunity to pick up there. You don't have to pick up again. If we get influenced by the tendencies and don't take the advantage of that position, then we lose it. So I don't think karma has anything to do with bhakti. Bhakti is given by the causeless mercy of the devotee. This is my understanding, Mataji. On the other aspect of you are saying you are trying to do something in bhakti, but factors of karma are coming in the way as obstacle. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yes, Prabhuji, in first point also, I mean, maybe am I understanding wrong? Like bhakti, so coming contact to spiritual master, as in the 6th chapter also saying, because of our previous things only we are born like that. Means that's not a karma. You're saying something is different with the bhakti. I didn't understand, Prabhuji, first thing.
Karma is activities, your material activities. Karma means your any activities you do, right? In a day-to-day process. Karma is that. What you did, the spiritual activity, that is not a karma. What you did, spiritual activity, is a separate thing. That is never lost. And you have that as a benefit for your next life. If some, I'm just giving an example. Why somebody will come and meet a devotee and why somebody will not meet a devotee, right? Some meets a devotee, some does not meet a devotee. There are so many people who meet a devotee, but that seed is not sown. Whatever, you have to overcome certain things, and it is all the mercy of the Lord, one thing, and you also call something called you accumulate some credits. When that credit is fructifies, you get that contact with the devotee also. That also is another way to think about it. Now we tell, if you go to the public, you share books, you share prasadam. Why we share prasadam? Even though they don't realize it is an offered food and all that, when they eat it, they get some pious credit to that, because they ate prasadam that was offered to the Lord. All that will have some effect for their future, either in this birth or next birth. Not because of what the karma they did, but because of some transcendental thing that they received, which is above the karma. I may not be explaining it in a convincing way. Maybe other devotees, Ramacharya Prabhu, if he is still there, I would request him to. Let's see. Hare Krishna Prabhu. Prabhu, you can answer Mataji's question, maybe more convincingly.
I think you are doing excellent. I didn't understand the question at first place. I heard it, but it was not very clear to me that what exactly Mataji is asking. I'm sorry. So if I don't understand the question, it might be difficult for me to answer it. But if you can rephrase it, then that would be really helpful, Prabhu. If you like me to say something.
My understanding of what she is asking is, we say in Prabhupada, in the purport says that bhakti is not dependent on karma and jnana. But Mataji is saying, karma decides. She feels that karma decides where one is put in, what body one receives, and so that naturally also will decide bhakti also.
Yeah, so your answer was perfect. You said that bhakti is ahitukya pratihata. Now, there are so many things we have to understand, but bhakti is not the outcome of jnana or karma or even ashtanga yoga bhakti comes from the bhakti. So the source of the bhakti is bhakti itself. And one could be doing Ashtanga Yoga or Jnana Yoga. But then Krishna in Bhagavad Gita is talking about that none of these endeavor has no part of the bhakti. So even karma prayas, or if you understand the philosophy of Jnana Yogi also, when they get to the higher stage, Krishna says that Machitah mat prana, think about me, meditate upon me. For Ashtanga Yogi also, when they get into the higher stage, Aruruksha stage and Arurudha stage, when they come to Arurudha stage, they do dharana, dhyan, and samadhi. So that is also complete meditation on the Lord. So it's all basically some component of bhakti. But since this bhakti that is done with the mix of karma and gyan or Ashtanga Yoga, it was always supported by karma and Jnana Yoga. It was never self-sustained bhakti. So that bhakti was never independent. It's mixed up. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that is Gunabhuta Bhakti. Bhakti that is mixed up with karma, jnana, or yoga. But the result that they get, like Jnana Yogi, Sayujya Mukti, Ashtanga Yogi, Sayujya Mukti, that's not the result of their Jnana Yoga or Ashtanga Yoga. That's the result of the bhakti that they do while they are performing Karma Yoga or Ashtanga Yoga or Jnana Yoga. So thinking that there is no component of bhakti, that's also not right. Number one, bhakti is there, but that bhakti is based on raga sankalpa and vairagya vikalpa. Whatever I like, I'll do. Whatever I don't like, I would not do. So that's the motivation of the bhakti. But when bhakti comes in a very pure stage, then anukulasya sankalpya partikulasya vivarjanam. And what is anukul? Anukulenu krishnanu silnam bhaktir uttamam. When the anukul and partikul is completely understood in context of Lord Krishna. So there are stages. There are stages. And devotee does do bhakti, which is mixed with karma and jnana, and that's Gunabhuta Bhakti. The verse that you read is talking about Pradhanbhuta Bhakti, where there is some component of, little bit component of karma and jnana, but prominently it's bhakti. So bhakti is not the outcome of karma or jnana prayas, but there is some bhakti while you are making karma and jnana. That's number one point. Number two, bhakti is not outcome of any other endeavor. Bhakti comes from bhakti. So some of the concept we have to keep it very clear. Otherwise, confusion will keep on coming. So yes, when we are engaged in a devotional service, it might appear that we are performing some sort of karma, but that is not karma, that's bhakti. That's that when we are doing for the pleasure of Supreme Personality of Godhead, that devotional service, but that devotional service might not be pure. So there is another, there are terms given for that. Now, how we came to this stage where we have given the chance of bhakti, you cited a very powerful verse. Brahmanda varmitte kono bhagyavan jiv, Guru Krishna prasade paya bhakti lata bij. The swikriti, the pious credit that we get, that basically keep on coming life after life, life after life, life after life. And that creates some sort of mood or acceptance towards bhakti. And then when devotee comes and knock at the door, we hear their request. And then we engage into the process of bhakti. So this cycle of samskriti, repeated birth and death, does have little bit, pious credit here, little bit bhakti there, little bit bhakti there, but it was never performed as a pure bhakti. So these things goes simultaneously, but at some point, by mercy of Guru and Krishna, a devotee's life starts changing. So I don't know how I can segregate this, but that's the answer I could give.
Thank you, Prabhu. That's very nice.
The question comes, Prabhu, I know that, and some of the questions are very difficult. The answers would be also difficult, but but we have to basically slowly and slowly. It might not make sense where we are, but then the right way is that sadhu sangha. We have Shraddha, then sadhu sangha, then bhajar kriya, then anartha nivritti. So all of these things are happening simultaneously, and slowly and slowly, the more alignment we have with the shastra and sadhu's teaching, the more faith will develop. So the answer that I gave is basically not my answer. It very clearly Krishna is saying in Bhagavad Gita, slowly, step by step, how this thing works. But karma is not directing devotee's life also. I don't want to get into it. It will take time. But in Bhajan Rahasya and Madhurya Kadamini, it's mentioned that when devotee chants the name of Krishna and has the faith of devotional service, then from there onward, Krishna starts basically managing the life of a devotee. And depending on the degree of faith that person has, Krishna reveals accordingly. And there is powerful words Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Je jatha mam prapadante tam satam bhajamyaham. Same thing. So the life of a devotee is not managed by karma. That's very important thing. That the one thing that we can take out of it is that if you have faith in devotional service and your value system, which is outcome of the Guru Shastra and Sadhu, is telling that I have to do devotional service, but your swabhav is not there. Swabhav is the outcome of the mode of passion, ignorance, and goodness. So our swabhav is not there, but our value is there. So Krishna takes over then. Then Krishna says, okay, I'll adjust the mode of guna that is existing around you. And slowly, he will guide us until we come to the stage of pure devotional service. So karma really does not take place a lot in the life of a devotee. This is misunderstanding that people have, or devotees normally say, due to karma. Karma is gone. Once we have bowed down to the feet of Krishna and said that, my dear Lord, I have wandered a lot. Now kindly help me. Krishna takes over. And then he manifests sukha, dukha, whatever you have in your life, so that you can come to a stage of pure devotion. So karma really is not a very big component against bhakti, but people have, when we are coming into the bhakti, people still gives a lot of weightage to karma and jnana. But none of these things have really more weight against devotional service. You have done little bit devotional service. You said very beautiful. Swalpam api dharmasya trayato mato bhayat. That's all. The karma starts refuting. So don't rely too much on karma. Also in Bhagavatam 4th canto, Prithu Maharaj is talking to his citizens, and he is very clearly saying that people come in this life based upon their guna, karma, swabhava, nature, kal, all of that. But once they take the bhakti, then none of these things are really important. The most important thing is that their relationship with Krishna. And based upon that relationship, Krishna will guide that person until that person makes the journey. I don't know, but I said so many things from so many places. I hope it makes sense. Thank you, Prabhu. Nice class. Thank you so
Thank you,
much
Prabhu.
for doing it. I was a little bit distracted. I'm in temple, but I was hearing you some of the answer very nicely, Prabhu. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Mataji, hope a nice answer from Ramacharya Prabhu is okay, convincing enough.
Yes, Prabhuji, that answers me my second question. Of course, I still have question on the first one, Prabhuji.
Okay.
If you don't mind, I
We
don't
can
know whether
discuss
it
now.
takes time. Whether it
Yeah.
takes time, it's okay, Prabhuji, but it makes sense for the second question for me, but I
Okay.
need just more first one. Thank you,
Okay,
Prabhuji.
Mataji. Thank you.
What is the first one question, Prabhu? What was the first one?
Mataji, you can state the question again if you want.
Sorry, Prabhuji, if I'm taking time.
No, go ahead. No, go ahead. We are in the temple. That's fine. Devotee
Yeah,
who want to leave, they can leave. We'll talk a little bit. That's fine. What was your first question, Mataji? I didn't catch.
I wanted to understand about this karma, right? So, yes, Prabhuji, in the second question, you answered me nicely that in the devotees, once we contact for the bhakti, depends on the level, Krishna will rule. I mean, Krishna will take over. Prabhuji, that I understood, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji, for it. The first question is, so where we born, definitely karma will I'm thinking maybe karma may it takes place, right, Prabhuji? In the Bhagavad Gita 6th chapter also, as we mentioned, where we born depends on our level of the things we have done in the life, right? Suppose
That's right. That's right.
So where we born, definitely that impacts our karma, right? I mean, karma impacts
Yes,
our.
yes, yes.
That is my question, Prabhuji. Yeah.
Yeah. So birth that we have received so far, that has been the result of our past credit before. That's right. So that's why when people say that varnashram does not matter, it's not 100% right. Because, Krishna is saying that Maya Sristi Chaturvarnam Varnashram Vibhagsa. Krishna has created this Varna and Ashram, and the devotee who have taken birth in the family of a Brahmin, they have higher chance. They have from very childhood, they have been hearing Hari Katha, and their parents are living past life, and then the person will pick up a devotional service. So Varnashram is not the prerequisite for bhakti also, but Varnashram create an environment for one to be easily accessible, or it minimizes your resistance toward bhakti. So far, like for example, Manusyanam Sahasya Sukhasirvet Visiddhaya, Krishna says that coming to the life, coming to this form where we have the form like human being, that itself is a lot of pious credit, a lot of high, credential that you had in your account, that you took birth as a human being, and then Krishna gave you Suchinam Srimate Gehe, you have good education, wealth around you. All of that is given by Krishna. So far, it has been result of your karmas, Swabhava, all of that. But at this lifetime now, while you and I are talking, now your life is transitioning. Now you are getting more into the zone of Krishna consciousness, where you are now trying to connect yourself with the ultimate truth. So that opportunity is also given to you by Krishna and devotee. Okay, but so far, yes, like, there are 8.4 million species of life, and all of those living beings are, in the cycle of samsriti because of their karma. Krishna says that they are going through the cycle of their karma, and due to that free independent will that little bit Krishna has given, due to that, to respect that, Krishna doesn't interfere. Let them jiva go through the cycle of whatever they want to go through. But once they come to that stage, but every time you incur, you accumulate some pious credit, and that pious credit give you higher life. But that doesn't mean that make you qualified for bhakti. There are so many people who are richer than you. There are so many people who are living in America, more educated than you, but they're not devotee. But you have opportunity for devotee. That because you had taste to hear from devotee. Okay, so the cause of the bhakti is bhakti only. There is no other cause. So don't think that your pious credit has made you qualified to be devotee in this lifespan. No. The person who have made you qualified to be devotee in this lifespan is that person who first touched, who knocked on your door, who is your path pradarshak guru, who showed you the path that why you are doing this, why don't you chant the name of Krishna. That person is very important in your life. And you should be very, very indebted to that person who has brought you here. But from here onward, it's Krishna and devotee. From there, before, it was your karma. Is it clear, Mataji? Or still not clear?
Yeah, sure, Prabhuji. So you are saying this karma plays until we get one spiritual master or some person will take our path. I mean, give the path.
Yes,
We got the
exactly.
path. Again, it's our free will and depend on the Krishna's mercy how we proceed. That's what I was saying.
Yes, Mataji. Yes, yes. So here is the thing. Here is the thing. You know, devotee and non-devotee. Okay. Devotee meets a. So here is the. Let me. This is the last example. There is one devotee and there is another person who is non-devotee. Okay. Devotee talks to a person and that person becomes. So who is devotee? Devotee is a person who has bhakti, right? So devotee talks to a person and then that person become bhakta. A non-devotee person talks to a same person and that person does not become a devotee. So what makes that person become devotee? Did you understand my question? So a person plus bhakti is a devotee. And that devotee, when he talks to a person, that person becomes devotee. A person who has no devotion talks to that person and that person does not become devotee. So what makes that person devotee is the bhakti. So cause of the bhakti is also called yadrikshaya, navilasita shunyam, ahitukya pratihata. Bhagavatam. There are multiple, contexts where the bhakti has been very profoundly established that bhakti is the cause of bhakti itself. So the bhakti that came to you or somebody who has agitated, stimulated your love towards Krishna was that devotee. That devotee, bhakti anama vijaniya, Krishna says in Bhagavatam, that when you see my devotee, see them as myself, my expansion. And then he says also that I expand as a spiritual master. Krishna is so devote. So when we see a spiritual master, we should see them as Krishna, because Krishna has expanded in that form to save me. So bhakti comes from bhakti. But yes, you had some degree of susceptibility or least resistance or less resistance toward hearing that bhakti or to that devotee has come from some of your swikriti, pious credit that you had life after life. So karma does play some role. Don't ignore that. I'm not ignoring it. But you also have to understand that when that transition makes, after that transition, karma is no longer doing anything in the life of a devotee. But until we are away from Krishna, it does manage our life. Is it good enough, Mataji?
Sure, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji. Just I wanted to understand here, Prabhupada writing on the that statement, karma not impact the bhakti. Yes, Prabhuji. Now I got it.
Yes,
Thank
yes.
you.
So
Thank you.
Prabhupada made the whole Krishna consciousness, whole American Krishna conscious. Why? Because Prabhupada had devotion, right? So all of these people who became devotee, they became devotee because Prabhupada transplanted his bhakti to them. Okay, so devotee is very powerful, very, very powerful. Always see the feet of a devotee. If you advance in Krishna consciousness, one thing that you understand is that respect for the devotee, like extreme respect. So yes, karma, and this verse is as Prabhu very nicely, very technical class. Always love it class. Very nice class. Prabhu mentioned that point very clearly. That niskam karma. Some of these things we have to understand a little bit better, but I would just adjourn here as if you are convinced that yes, karma does not play much role.
Thank you, Prabhuji. That's
Thank
where
you.
the devotee association is that much important, where bhakti can plan from others. Great point. Thank you, Prabhuji, for making me understand it. And thank you for all your time. Sorry, I took long time though.
No, it's fine. Thank you, Prabhuji. Vanimadure Prabhu. We can adjourn here, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Prabhu, for nicely explaining. Even in my, I have more clarity now about the karma and how the devotee's life is taken over by Krishna. Thank you. Thank you all for hanging around and enjoying the discussion. I again take this take a moment to thank you for the opportunity for my purification, listening to me. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Assembled Bhakti Vrinda ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Granthara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji.